Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Michaelmas Comedy Debate. This house exists happily up its own arse. As we reach the midpoint of our term, this is a chance for us all to reflect on the Union and Cambridge, and indeed our individual comics' lives, and work out what it is we think about ourselves that are important and indeed up our own arse. If you're joining us tonight online, our inventive hashtag is #CUSArse. Do tweet us with your comments or questions. My phone battery's on 4%, so tweet us with your comments or questions quite quickly, and I will try and read them out. If you'd like to contribute to the debate tonight, if you think you can match our comics, good luck. You can make floor speeches, or you can make points of information, probably more floor speeches. In between the first pair and the second pair of speakers, I will ask for points in proposition, opposition, and abstention. This is your chance to have your say as you so wish. Tonight's debate is being supported by OC&C Strategy Consultants, who have our enormous thanks for their support. OC&C are currently hiring a full-time graduate positions and summer internships. They are looking for people with outstanding analytical minds and eclectic interests, and encourage candidates from all disciplines to apply. If you want to find out more about OC&C, please pick up one of their brochures or a duck. If you're in, ducks are apparently their thing, so if you're in the bar and you see somebody handing out plastic ducks, because it's from OC&C. So if you'd like to work for OC&C, do grab a duck. Cool, that was the oddest speech I've had to give from this chair. To open the case for side proposition and indeed side Cambridge, we have Phil Wang. Phil Wang is a former Footlights President. He's a comedian, actor, and writer. He graduated from Cambridge in 2012 with nothing but a twinkle in his eye and a master's in engineering. Phil.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Good evening. This house happily exists up its own arse. This house happily exists up its own arse. Let's look at that sentence. Word by word, and in a confusing new order. Exists, having objective reality or being. This, used to identify a specific person or thing close at hand or being indicated or experienced. House, the building my mom lives in. Arse, a weird pronunciation of us. Up, Pixar's finest work. Own, a wrong pronunciation of the number 1. Happily, Lee when he experiences joy. And of course, who can forget it's? Now, what does this tell us about tonight's motion? Not much. But didn't it sound good? Yeah? Didn't I look good saying it? Don't I smell good? And isn't that what's really important here? You know, how we sound, how we look, if I stink. The image we portray to friends and strangers alike. As entertainment, politics, and the press have accurately shown, time and time again, it is appearance that matters, not content. Yeah? Never content. In fact, if a facade is ever truly realized with any measure of success at all, its content should be moot, or in the Union's case, academic. Thank you. In fact, this very union is a handy case in point of this motion. Yeah? Your president has a blue velvet jacket. That's a man who's happy in himself. The Cambridge Union. Its name is the Cambridge Union. But does this name survive close scrutiny? Okay? Cambridge. Sure. Not even I would venture to challenge the laws of geography, being the robust, empirical, and definitely real science that it is. But union. My friends, this is not a union, okay? There's nothing unified about it. And we're fighting right now. We were asked to by the union. The whole evening is dedicated to it. You know, a union that seeks to separate, a union debate, a contradiction in terms. And the deceit doesn't end there. The deceit does not end there. The speakers, I'll tell you, the speakers at the union page on this union's official website boasts a, and I quote, wide platform of speakers who shape the world we live in. Yet it has hosted me no fewer than 3 times. Now, excluding an unforgettable childhood visit to the Potteries Museum in Stoke-on-Trent, I have shaped nothing. And yet hosted I continue to be. The page goes on to list among its past speakers Dame Judi Dench, Sir Ian McKellen, Robert Downey Jr., Lisa Kudrow, and Bill Nighy, whilst neatly failing to mention that those people are, of course, all actors and were merely pretending to be here. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that's what these guys are, right? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let me be absolutely clear when I say that the world-famous Cambridge Union prides itself on a reputation built on a bed of lies. But what a comfortable bed it is. Bouncy and clean. Yeah? Not too hard, but not too soft either. Why, Goldilocks herself would gladly rest her entitled Aryan head upon its soft pillows before serenely being ripped to shreds by angry bears in her sleep. But because is it not image, and image alone, which makes the Cambridge Union the internationally renowned institution it is? As Confucius himself once said, yes. So what if the union is up its arse? Yeah? So what if we are all up all our asses? So what? It's warm in there. You know, it's comfy. And you only have to deal with your own shit. The real world is cold. It's quantitative. It's got bees in it. So why not? Why not live your life as if you are the world? I submit that not only does this house happily exist up its own arse, but that it is right to do so. The question now is this house right to be happy about that? I say yes, absolutely, completely, 100%. After all, what reason is there to exist as a contributing member of some grander scheme? To help your fellow human? To raise the downtrodden? To heal the sick? Why? Why be kind when you can be cool? Why be truly alive when you can be truly aloof? Why be useful when you can be useful? Why be interested when you can be interesting? In other words, why be a helper when you could be a hipster? The hipster movement, birthed among the blue notes of the 1940s, has since proved itself one of the most pervasive cultural phenomena of the last century, and has slowly but sarcastically grown into the global phenomenon we know and unanimously love today. The whole time, well and truly stuffed between its meticulously tattooed buttocks and up its organically moisturized anus. We need the hipsters. We need them. A community brought together by the identical shared desire for individuality. We need them more than many of us care to admit. I mean, who else? Who else will keep the jam jar and penny farthing industries alive and well? Who else will pretend to enjoy on the road? Who else will let the rest of us know when lame becomes ironic, when outdated becomes retro, when unwieldy becomes authentic, when overpriced becomes artisan, when unpasteurized becomes fresh, when difficult becomes fun, when apathy becomes philosophy, when unsuccessful becomes independent, when danger becomes character, when cheap becomes unaffordable, when bad becomes good? And who will sell us cereal? The supermarkets? Yes. But I can't eat it there, can I? Necessity is the mother of invention, but self-obsession is the mother of art. Yeah? Without being lodged firmly up their own sphincters, how could the pharaohs have built the pyramids? How could Van Gogh have painted his sublime self-portraits? How could Kanye West have created anything he's ever made? It is a brazen and unfair hypocrisy of society to demand introspection of its artist, only to then accuse them of rectum gazing. Imagine, if you will, a world without ego. The moon landings would have been impossible without man's incurable preoccupation with being the first to step on stuff. Pachelbel's glorious canon would be a significantly shorter affair were it not repeatedly enamored with its own melody. And fashion would literally not exist at all. So, when I say that this house happily exists up its own arse, not only do I believe that to be true, but I am glad that it is true. It is the attitude that built this fine university. Yeah? It is the mission statement that brought us all here. Being a little too pleased with oneself is a Cambridge tradition that you've all bought into, whether you confess to it or not. When you graduate from here, your degrees will end in cantab, to signify that you went here. A suffix that I can tell you from personal experience will increase the regularity of sexual encounters by 10 to 20%. You will include it in your list of qualifications when the graduates of other universities will not theirs. Why? Because, aside from Oxford, whose abbreviation Oxon is merely a convenient hint to potential employers to stay well away, aside from them, no one cares. No one cares if you have a BA Manc, or an M.Sci liver, or a PhD der. You will all directly benefit from this university's position shoulders deep into its own colon. And so you should. However, to happily exist up our asses should not be a luxury. That was racist to myself just then. However, to happily exist up our asses should not be a luxury exclusive to the intellectual elite, but encouraged in every stratum of our society, based on each individual's opinions, tastes, and perceived strengths. A country unified in perpetuity by a mass blind egomania, smirking and scoffing forever into the future in discordant unison. Now, I can't help but sense a skepticism here tonight towards my perhaps optimistic vision, but to quote the great John Lennon, B.A. liver, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only own. Thank you very much.
Phil, thank you. To open the case for the Oxford side opposition, we have Anna Domine. All I have written down here is that Anna would like you to like her Facebook page. That is, for those that aren't aware, I have notes in front of me. I don't actually know who our speakers are. And all I have here is Anna would like you to like her Facebook page. So please like Anna's Facebook page. Anna.
I wrote that bio for myself a long time ago, and I'm really wishing that I didn't, just FYI. Sort of like Phil did at the beginning, my plan was to deconstruct the motion because I don't really understand it. And that was sort of my approach to my whole degree. I read theology. Theology is a bit like geography in that everyone thinks it's a DOS, but the difference is that colours actually exist. Just to give you an example of how I did with theology, in my first tutorial, which is how we pronounce supervision at Oxford, it's also spelled differently for anyone interested. In my first tutorial, we were shown a painting, which I believe you can see now. That is Michelangelo's painting of Adam and Eve taking the fruit from the garden. And my tutor said, "What do you notice about the serpent?" The serpent here is representing Satan. So what do you notice about the serpent? And I said, "Oh, it's a woman," because back in first year I was cis-normative like the rest of them. And he said, "Yeah, how did you notice it was a woman?" I said, "Oh, well, it's got breasts." And he goes, "Good, no one ever really notices that. How does that make you feel?" And I said, "Like a pervert." And he was like, "No, I meant like women are being represented as the pinnacle of evil." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that." So that was kind of, I started as I meant to go on, which meant that I didn't really do any of the reading at all. Hence why my approach to any question is just break down the phrases as much as they will go to make up for the fact that you don't know what you're talking about. So that's what I plan to do here. So the first phrase in this motion, this house believes, wait, no, this house, fuck. This house happily exists up his own arse. This house happily exists. Now, first I have to say, we have to clarify which house. Because, like, there are lots of houses in the world that may not be happy. For example, this one. All that house... All that house wanted to do was have people live in it and occasionally deal with its pipes. And yet now everyone thinks it's a dead fascist dictator. It's not a happy house. Next one. Now you'd think, what would be sad about being the White House? But a little known fact about the White House is it's actually really introspective and I've forgotten the word for the opposite of, nope. But the White House doesn't actually like having its photo taken. It's very shy and reclusive. So being the house of like one of the most famous people in the world is like unideal for it. It would rather be a 2-bedroom semi in Milton Keynes. So the White House is very unhappy. It's also a little bit racist, so it can't really deal with the fact that a black man's living inside it. Then there was a house I found when I was looking for somewhere to live on spareroom.com. Next, is that going to work? Okay, you can't see it. Good thing I have my notebook to read out exactly what it says. So on most spare room adverts for houses, it says things like, you know, bright, airy, 2-bedroom flat in wherever you can't afford it. This one just said, 2 normal girls with a spare room. Like, as it basically translates as run for the fucking hills. But this advert went on, my housemate and I are auditioning for a new friend. The room is a double with, this is in caps, amazing storage! Like, subtext, all the better to store your severed limbs in. No living room, but a decent-sized kitchen with oven and fridge. Like, who knew that kitchens now come with both? There is a garden which we share with a ginger cat, brackets, he's a bit aloof. Well, no wonder he's aloof. First of all, they singled him out for being ginger, which is not nice. And second of all, they probably just offered him a litter tray that was full of broken razors, and that's why he didn't want to come into their pit of hell. We're both super cool late 20s beeps, so bear that in mind. I will. Please prepare a song and a reading of your choice. This is a genuine advert on a property website. And then at the end it says no crazy eddies, because presumably they couldn't handle any more nutcases in one space. So I reckon the house that hosted those people in was also not happy. So yeah, that's my contention with this house, happily exists. But if we presume that it's this house, i.e. the Cambridge Union, that happily exists, I'd just like to say that my dad went to Cambridge. He was probably a member of the union. I didn't actually do any research for this. But my dad was at Cambridge, and he definitely isn't happy. After my parents divorced, my dad actually went to live on a houseboat. Says it all, really, don't you think? Like, his life clearly wasn't already tragic enough, so he was just like, I'll go and live in the Medway, which, like, is the worst of all the rivers, if for anyone who doesn't know. But I used to go and visit him there so that I'd still get Christmas presents, obviously. And I once saw this houseboat on the marina when I was visiting him called The Perfect Lady. And I thought, how badly must that guy's heart have been broken? That his idea of the perfect human female life partner was made of wood. Like, you know, there's that game, I like my women like I like my coffee, for example, with no pubes. That was highbrow for you guys. Well, I thought you could do a similar thing. I like my women like I like my houseboats, you know, reeking of raw sewage and disappointment. Or I like my women like I like my houseboats, tethered to a dock and floating in a canal. Like, the comparison just doesn't really make sense. My sister told me not to do that joke. She was like, Anna, that's a little dark. And I was like, well, you're the youngest of twins, which means there's a 100% chance you were a mistake. So it's just logic. So if there are any twins in the house, you're by default not happy. So that's kind of proving all the points there. But could I have the next slide, please? So this is an arse. It's not actually an arse. I just took a picture of my elbow, but I'm told that Cambridge students can't tell the difference. So, yeah, I didn't want to Google bare arse, so I just took a picture of my elbow. But this is an arse. So I want you to imagine living inside that. Because the average person is bigger than the average arse. I don't know if you knew this. So if we zoom in, next slide. There we go. And zoom in a little further with the next slide. This is inside an arse. I took the time to make that on paint, so I hope you all appreciate it. But it's a lot smaller than, like, you know, a whole house, as the next slide will prove. It's just not happy, okay? So that's all I've prepared. So now the rest of it, we don't know where it's going to go. But yeah, I thought maybe now I'd just do some more stories about how street I am. I was once playing Articulate with my sister. That's always a good way to start a story about how street you are. And she got the word wig that she was trying to describe to me, and she said fake hair, and I said weave. So that's definitely not up my own arse at all. And I'm definitely not as up my own arse as my mum. My mum thinks that per se patrol is something to do with Neighbourhood Watch. So basically, guys, use that as a barometer and we're all good. We're all totally clued up about the real world. I mean, happily exists up your own arse. Who here is actually happy? Wow. One guy put their hand up. I like it. I used to do that as give me a cheer if you've got depression, but no one ever responded. Ironically, it's okay. It's not on PC that I said that because I also have depression. So, but basically, in this world, I don't know if you can tell, but in this world, no one should be happy while things like this still exist. This book is called How to Cook in High Heels, which is basically misogynist code for how to please a man while at the same time pleasing a man. It's got a whisk and some legs on the back, which I just personally find a bit sinister. And on the front it says, a yummy mummy's dream gone mad, OK magazine. And I feel like you know a book's going to be shit when it's been reviewed by a magazine that has more pictures in it than words. They may as well have gone, this book got 5 stars from Rasta Mouse. We have some CBeebies fans in the room. Excellent. But as well as sort of recipes, they've also got lifestyle tips for how to be exceedingly bland. Would you like to hear some of them? Yeah. Woo! Good. That's the rest of the set. So, so they've got this section on romancing with food, or as I like to call it, 50 Shades of Gravy. And it says, rather than complaining about him watching the football, make his favourite food and serve it on a tray. Just don't expect any thanks until the match is over. Subtext there, and be grateful it wasn't a slap. Like if I were editing this book at that point, I'd add, and next time you're worried about expressing an opinion in front of your man, why not invest in some gaffer tape for your face? Kath Kidston are doing some lovely floral ones at the moment. And they've also got a section on hosting the perfect dinner party, because like if you are a person who actually takes the advice of this book, you probably aren't able to just hold a pleasant conversation. So there's a tip that says, keep the kids happy. It's an indisputable fact that if children know you're busy, they'll want twice as much attention as usual. Draft in a friend to keep the kids occupied until bedtime. Once they're tucked up, you can read them a bedtime story and be back in the kitchen in no time. Where you belong! I added that last bit. I don't know if you can tell. But the thing that really upsets me about this, despite all the misogyny in it, is that at no point does it actually give instructions for how to cook in high heels. And I feel like without proper guidance, that could actually potentially be a really dangerous situation. Like, just imagine you're in the kitchen cooking your husband's favourite meal to put on a tray, and you're wearing nothing but high heels and obviously a chain around your neck so you don't go too far away from the sink. And you're a bit wobbly because you've been at the sherry to distract from your loveless marriage. So when you bend down to put something in the oven, now I'm Sylvia Plath. It's just bollocks. So basically, Cambridge, ask yourself if you can still be happy while things like this exist in the world today. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. The next speaker for Side Cambridge and Side Proposition is Eleanor Colville. Eleanor's a frequent Footlights performer who has recently toured with Love Handles to venues across North America. She was also in a play with me once, which isn't funny, but it is true. So, Eleanor.
Hiya. I'd first just like to make sure the camera's got my best angle, so we can begin. And also, Oliver, I'd like to correct you. I think there's been a slight miscommunication. Not sure many of you have noticed, but I'm not actually Eleanor. Eleanor, unfortunately, had to stay at home this evening. She was too far up her own arse to come and do the debate, so I've been asked to replace her, so here I am. But Tracy, you haven't even introduced yourself yet. Oh, well, my name's Tracy, Tracy Taplin, TT. I've recently become Total Load of Fun, am I right? No one needs drink to have a good time, do they? No, not me. Cracking. Right. Anyway, Eleanor's given me her debate notes, but they were, I think, pretty boring. So I've just decided I'll just do my own debate. I've added a few firecrackers of my own in. You might be able to spot which ones they were, but I think it's going to be a top night. So when Oliver here rang me up, obviously he was like, Eleanor's face is twisted in her own rectum right now. Her neck's about to collapse. She obviously cannot do this debate. And I was like, okay, I can replace Eleanor. Sure. And he was like, you will? And I was like, you know what, Oliver? Shut that front door, open that back door. I'm here to debate artists. Right. So I told Oliver, I said, Oliver, I'm going to be perfect at this debate. I'm literally going to be perfect. I'm so good at debating. And I'm so good at getting people to see my opinion, you know, and just to agree with me. And I didn't feel the same way. But I'm sure all you will, and I'll prove it to you now. I should warn you, I sometimes get a little scared in front of large groups, speaking on the spot. So my number one rule for tonight's house is that I'm not going to get flustered. Ooh, little Tracy joke there. Right, so without further ado, I will be arguing that this house can happily exist up its own arse. Wonderful. So firstly, I'd just like to add that I don't agree with this simply because I'm rich and I earn loads of money or anything. I'm simply so rich that I don't actually have to earn any money. In fact, that's not really true, is it, Tracy? I wouldn't even consider myself to be rich yet. I'm still waiting for Mum and Dad to die, you know. Oh, die, Mum and Dad, die! You know, I'm just your ordinary Cambridge student, really, just like you know. I'm just living off wasabi and the occasional itsu, you know. Oh, God, sorry. It happens all the time, this. Oh, yeah! Silver spoon! It's the rich man's hair pull, honest to God, rich man's hair pull! Coughing up the whole time. But, what true. Actually, it's a bit... Sorry, just realised then that you actually laughed and clapped at that. Just coughed up a silver spoon and just like to remind you it's actually a condition I'm born with. So, it's kind of rude of you to laugh at that, isn't it? I've tried to get it fixed, okay? Some people are born like that, but I can't, And it was so bad one time, I almost choked, not on a silver spoon, on a golden ladle. A ladle made of gold, It was so bad, I thought I had to go to A&E, but then I remembered, I just don't believe in the NHS. It's not like a wealth thing or anything, I just don't trust people who use acronyms, TBH. Sorry, that was rude, I should check my privilege. Oh, yeah, still here. But sorry, I'll get back to the debate. So, I thought to myself, Oliver rang me up, Tracy, will you do it? I was like, okay, Tracy, you can do this. Tracy, you can debate. And I was like, what was debating about? It's about persuading people, right? Yeah? So I was thinking, Tracy, what else is about persuading people? And it's not, apart from trying to persuade your doctor you're allowed to leave the house, it's adverts, isn't it? Adverts! Little jingles! So I was thinking, I could say a little jingle in my debate, just a little jingle to get it cracking. So, oh, who shall I use? I need a volunteer. I'll use the opposition, shall I? Okay, you give me a rhyme, and I'll give you a word. No, sorry, wrong way around. You give me a word, I'll give you a rhyme.
B.
B. Come on, Tracy. What rhymes with B? B is, Right, okay, let's swap this around now. You give me a rhyme, I'll give you a word. Any rhyme, just a rhyme to pass the time. Any rhyme, top of your head, just a rhyme. Just a rhyme.
Young and dung.
Show off. Maybe 2 words, but, I'll take it. Members of the jury, I promised you a jingle, so I'm going to give you one, but, can we have music? No, we can't. Well, first you introduced me wrong, now you've not got my music, Oliver. Great. Don't worry, we can make it ourselves. Good job, I was so nervous I puked up all those spoons earlier. Right. Phil, I'll be giving you some spoons.
Okay.
I'll give you some spoons too, and I'd like you to just make a little rhythm, like the beat to, what's that song like? We Will Rock You, but the non-copyright one. Yeah, that's right. Everyone, join in, clap your feet, your hands. My name is Tracy, my feelings are racy. I'm here to debate, don't mean to aggravate. Don't know if I'm happy, don't know if I exist. I'm so unhappy, but I'm not allowed to drink. I'm total load of fun, you're just total load of wank. Don't hate me just cause I've money in the bank. Can't we all just get along? Is happiness a farce? I'm wearing a lucky thumb, now get in my arse! Thank you! Right, that was brilliant, what a jingle! So it leads me up to my next point, ladies and gents. Happiness and the behind. Bottoms, they make you happy, don't they? And no stronger case study than this guy. He's a bit of a legend. I hope we all know him, and I hope we can all see him. Look at his little smile, he's so happy. I've never seen anyone smile that happy. And why is he happy? It's because he lives in an arse. He lives there. His house is in an arse. And the kind of houses some artists have are just brilliant. They're super spacious and everything, like really fashionable. So like, word of advice, if you're looking for a new house, you're looking around Shoreditch because you want to be like 2012 edgy, well, stop trying feeling up market and start feeling up arses, It's all in the arse, I'm telling you. I'm not crackers, I swear. So, it's like, take this. Okay, now, these pictures are not very big, but you'll just have to do. This is a house you could be living in if you get caught drink driving and your mum and dad don't back you up. Look, there's a rat there and everything. It's pretty bad. This is another one, option number 2. Pretty small again. I should have printed it the other way. There's a chandelier. Pretty good. It's pretty nice. This one, this is the house that is in Oliver's arse. He very kindly let me take a photo of it using a selfie stick or something before. So thanks, Oliver. And I would happily happily live in that house. But now this is where I reach the problem. Let's not drink too soon. A true debater always reads the question. We've already had a question breakdown here from these two excellent debaters, but I think you're missing the point. You know, yes, I could happily live up my own arse, but especially in such a nice house. But I think the question none of us have asked here is, what about the arse? You know, is the arse happy? I mean, I guess what it boils down to is, okay, well, I don't want to say this in the union, but who's here's had anal, right? You know, who? Hands up, don't be shy in front of Auntie Tracy, you know? I mean, do you want a house up there? No, what is the arse? You know, what is the arse gaining out of this situation? You know? So I think we need to just step back and think of the arse's feelings. I'm coming to the end now, and in this debate, I've tried to persuade you with a jingle and an emoticon of a smiling poo, and I hope I've really torn this question apart, you know, really grappled with all these terms, you know, torn the words limb from limb. So what have we drawn from this? Certainly blood. But, you know, if you are actually bleeding, do check it out. But remember, only with private health care. So yes, I would happily live in a house, in an arse, but always remember, how does the arse feels? And ladies and gents, Tracy's arse is feeling pretty darn good. Thank you very much. I've been Tracy Chaplin.
Thank you, Tracy. Again, the Oxford side haven't really given me much to work with here, but the next speaker for side opposition, side Oxford, is George McGoldrick, who has a great deadpan style. George.
Hello there, my name's George. I had some trouble kind of thinking of a way to address this question. I thought it's quite tough, so I thought I would talk about the village of Its Own Arse, which is obviously split into two halves, Lesser, Its Own Arse, and Upper Its Own Arse. And so these are just some stories from the village, and I think through which side of the village it comes from, you can kind of understand the points I'm making. I also have my brother here, Jack, who's going to play some musical accompaniment for the stories, and it's very lovely, so yeah. These stories are quite short, some of them, and part of the fun is that you're not entirely sure when they finished. So we'll go ahead with the first one, which is definitely Upper Its Own Arse. Go for it, just a kind of nice folky thing. Thank you. This one's called The Bank Shuts in 10. Mike had just been informed that the bank would be closing shortly, and he didn't want to be the reason that the bank staff all went home 5 minutes late. So he put his gun and his balaclava back in his bag and headed home. So that was the first one, and here's the second one, which is Upper, and it's all about the financial crisis. Thank you, Jack. I looked out of the window and saw Alan Titchmarsh in my vegetable patch. You know Titchmarsh from the Weetabix adverts? "Get off my patch, Alan!" I screamed. But he was now rooting through my turnips and radishes. He then began rooting through the bins. So that was the second one. This third one, I think, doesn't belong to Upper or Lesser. It's just one that we can all relate to. The fuck, yeah. the fuck one, Jack. Thank you. Oh, fuck. Fuck. Oh, fuck it. Fucking hell. Oh, fuck. Oh, for fuck's sake. Fuck! Oh, fuck. I forgot my student rail card. This one's lesser. Thanks, Anna. It doesn't require Jack, this one. This one's got a song. Thank you. It's a bit longer. Yes. Oh, yes. Leonard was almost certain that this was the best stick he had ever found. It was about 1 meter long, a kind of darkish brown. It fitted his hand as any walking stick could, maybe better. Yes, Leonard, you've really gone and done it this time. He smashed it full force into a nearby tree. Nothing. No breaks, chips, or dents, and yet Leonard had given it his biggest whack. It just rested happily in his palm. The perfect stick. But oh no, what was this? A sudden surge of panic overcame him. What if this was the last time he'd ever find a stick of such a caliber? He worried because he lost most of his good sticks through just throwing them around in the woods. He couldn't be throwing this one around, not after everything he'd sacrificed to find it. But as he stared upon it, he knew it'd all been worth it. He turned and swung it again, slashing a red squirrel from a branch. Yes! Dinner for this evening. But as he bent down to pick the creature up, he noticed that a dog walker had paused to look at the commotion nearby. Leonard gulped. He's after my stick. And in that moment, all good sense and reason flew away in the wind as Leonard sprung towards the mysterious man and his Jack Russell. He began to flail the stick, at which point the dog walker realised that Leonard was a man possessed, and so turned and began to hotfoot it down the path. But Leonard had began leaping through the air, his feet going whole seconds without touching the ground. The dog walker had no chance on a gammy leg. Leonard was now painfully close, practically brushing the heels of the man, and so within no time at all, Leonard found himself whacking the fella. He started with the side of the torso, then did some vital work to the bad leg, bringing the man crashing to the floor, at which point the stick turned its attention towards the upper body, smashing its way into the neck. Leonard then dropped the stick and began slapping the man's face from side to side until there was little to no movement left in it. A part of Leonard knew that this was insanity, but he reassured himself. He was after my stick. So he reached behind his back to again feel that perfect smooth wood in his hands, but it wasn't there. He turned slowly around and saw far away down the path the small Jack Russell was making away with the stick. Oh, now we can't be having that. Jack again on the music. This is lesser. Cheers, Anna. Another folky song, please, Jack. Tony bought himself a 2-litre bottle of innocent smoothie, which was funny, as he had just been found guilty of murder. So, not that innocent at all, really. This one's upper, Anna. And I didn't actually write it. It is the description of a Made in Chelsea episode that Channel 4 published. Spencer regrets cheating on Lauren, and the group heads to the country for a music festival. So for this next one, Jack's just going to grab a ladder for me. And I'm afraid, Jack, I'm afraid you're sitting this one out. This is upper again, thank you. Thanks, Jack. Yep. The second song, thank you. I tried to kill myself last week. I threw myself off of here, but I only managed to break a wrist. 15 love. The worst part is that I did it halfway through a match. Djokovic to Chef. I don't know why I chose tennis umpire as a career when I'm fucking afraid of heights. And I don't even bloody like tennis. 30 love, Djokovic to Chef. I could have umpired a real sport, like English lawn bowls. Let. But I was just so attracted by the idea of free Ralph Lauren clothing. At the very least, I thought I'd get to umpire the women's matches. But I was told that I've got a strange look that puts them off. Leering, I think they described it as. 30-15? I'd look for work elsewhere, but it's not like I've even got any credentials. And people always say that I must be great with numbers, being a tennis umpire and whatnot. Great with numbers. 15 to 30 to 40. What the fuck is that? 30 love, game point, Djokovic. I should have chose English lawn bowls. That's that one. This one's lesser, Anna. Thank you. Jack, some more folky songs. Thank you. James pulled his willy out and started flailing it around in the air. Put your willy away! His mother screamed after him. But James had already made a mockery of the whole parents' evening. In an act of defiance against the iron-fisted rule of his wife, James's father also pulled his willy out and started slapping it around on his son's report card. Then Chadley Wiggins' dad got his willy out, and so did Nathan Wilson's. So before long, almost every man in the hall had his willy out and began jumping on the desks and dangling from the monkey bars. This is the last one. This is an upper one. Thank you, Anna. This is from a guy in the village called James, who used to write very hard-hitting novels, and then took some kind of sponsorship that people said ruined it, but he didn't think did. A very sad tone on this one, please, Jack. It's about World War II. I looked down the trench for my men. We had all been shot to shit. One of the older men had got an arm blown off, but the younger chaps had managed to find it, and were now stewing it with leeks and fennel. I rallied what men I could, and we crawled back into the darkness. One of the young guys, Martin Bush, turned to me and asked, "Captain, what day is it?" I turned back to him and I said, "Martin, it's a Dolmio day." So yeah, I didn't really answer the question that well, but thank you very much for listening, and thanks for Jack's lovely playing.
Thank you, George. I have never, ever followed a comedy debate, and that tradition continues. We now have time for a round of floor speeches, which I'm very confident about. Would anybody like to make a case for side proposition? This house exists happily up its own arse. Go on. What's the worst that could happen? Nope. Opposition. Yes, the person in the balcony.
So, one thing we haven't addressed yet is that some of us, whilst we don't live happily up our own arse, do live happily up the arses of other things. As some of us in this room are vet students.
That was a brave attempt to take the motion back to its original premise there. So well done. Yeah, sure, why not? Go for it.
Most of us aren't vet students. Thank you. Thanks.
It's going to get academic now. Would anyone like to make a speech in abstention? Not quite sure how one could abstain, but... Oh, okay, cool. Yes, this person there.
Sorry, I don't believe this house exists.
It's meta. Another point in proposition. Proposition side doing well. Anybody? Somebody must exist happily up their own arse. Cool, okay, cool. Nobody willing, cool. Opposition, anybody? No. Okie dokie. Abstention. Well, the person who was going to abstain over here has suddenly just lost the confidence. Anybody? Abstention? Good. Most successful floor round we've had in a while. So, in which case, we'll return to the main debate. To close the case for Cambridge side proposition, we have Milo Edwards. Who's a fresher here? Put your hand up. Okay, so you don't know who Milo is. But if you are not in first year, you know who Milo is. Milo was a classicist at Peterhouse and is a stand-up comedian and former Footlights performer. He was also the guy that got fired from the tab, which was cool, and the guy that also ran for CUSU President. So this is the path not taken. Milo Edwards.
Good evening. Oh, it works. How exciting. So I am Milo Edwards, unfortunately. And I'm going to begin this speech, as I begin all speeches, job interviews, sexual encounters, with a haiku. The Cambridge Union is so far up its own arse that it's reached its spleen. It's 575, it's haiku. It's a very clever Japanese form of poetic art. I mean, some people don't appreciate it. And I'm not saying that if you didn't laugh at that joke, you're not cultured. But I am saying that. And I think it's important that we just take a moment to note that. So yes, I did study at Peterhouse. Now, at Peterhouse, it's not so much a place where people are existing happily up their own arse. Well, I'm not going to finish that joke. It's best left unsaid. Now, I thought that the best way to demonstrate that the Cambridge Union exists happily up its own arse, as I firmly believe it does, because I've been told to believe that. But I also believe it because I was at Cambridge and I've been here before, and because I was not a member of the union, and therefore I was obliged to justify why I'd not spent £200 by saying things like, well, they exist happily up their own arse. And so I've compiled a list of previous debate topics which I think demonstrate this fact. Debate topic number 1, so the genuine Cambridge Union debate. This House regrets the rise of China. It's quite an arrogant debate topic, isn't it? The kind of arrogance that even I would not venture to, generally. I mean, it sort of implies that this House had something to do with the rise of China. As if this House, somewhere in between its spleen and its duodenum, had taken a decision to merge the various, empires of the Chinese area into sort of a large super-state, a sort of communist superpower, which then became a kind of large, forerunner of, economic production, which is now kind of, at the forefront of world economic development. And I just don't think the people who run the union have the time for that. Maybe they do, I don't know. Secondly, this House believes in the unconditional right to offend. Well, I mean, only a cunt would say that, wouldn't they, really? The third debate topic. This House believes Oxbridge is a finishing school for the privileged. It's not really a debate topic, is it, that one? That's just like saying wasps are dickheads. Like, you say that and people just go, yeah, let's move on. There's no need to elaborate at all. People are just, they're on board. They're on board from the beginning. This is another one I enjoyed. This House believes that the continual progress of science is inimical to social goods and is creating a climate of philistinism and, most worryingly, making money for Richard Dawkins. And I just felt that one was excessively wordy. And then finally, Alain de Botton, this House would for the anecdote. I feel that's denigrating the great work of Alain de Botton. And I feel that he's one of the most interesting arseholes to have been given a Guardian column. So I just felt that was very arrogant of the Cambridge Union. Now, it's interesting, isn't it, that we're all here in black tie laughing at our own jokes. That is in itself possibly one of the most, self-absorbed, happily existing up our own arse things we can do. We're laughing at our own jokes. Jokes probably produced with the blood of Vietnamese children, somehow. The same children who used to polish our pocket watches when we were at Eton College Harrow. Just as we were busy rowing over the line for a fives try. I remember those days. I do. I remember them fondly. And this is in stark opposition to what is going on in the real world, where there are real people who exist, not inside their arse, but outside of it, in a place, somewhere. I currently work in Russia. Now, I say I work in Russia. What I mean is I live in Russia, and I don't actually work. Which is exactly what it means to work in Russia. Because Russia is run by a half-naked man on a horse. And once you understand that fact, everything else about Russia can be derived a priori from that premise. There is no need to go there. You simply need to sit in a darkened room for a week and begin from the premise that Vladimir Putin runs Russia, and then everything else simply follows. Now, while I was in Russia, I became acquainted with a man called Andrei. Now, Andrei is a mustachioed, middle-aged man who lives near a town called Zvenigorod, which is a kind of outlying town of Moscow. And he was working as a driver for a very wealthy family, where I was working as a tutor, before I quit due to a very complex situation, which I feel we can summarize as them being fucking mental. Now, I was speaking to Andrei, and we must bear in mind that Andrei is a man who often wears triple denim. And that is a man whose opinion you have to respect. Because he is going against all social conventions and saying, no, I'm wearing triple denim. And I was once having a discussion with Andrei where he asked me what food people eat in Britain. I mean, it's an interesting question, isn't it? I was saying, well, Andrei, there's not really, a national cuisine in Britain. People eat all kinds of things, Italian food, Indian food, We're very much a culture of no culture at all. It is simply a mishmash of things, People take this in. He's like, right, that's very interesting. And then I said, so, Andrei, do you like any foreign food? And he looked at me for a moment and he said, foreign food? And I said, yes, food from different countries, like Lebanese food or Chinese food. And he said, right, I see. And then he turned to me and he said, I'm a Russian. Do I look like a homosexual? And when you're sat across from a man eating a bowl of boiled chicken who's wearing triple denim, you don't say yes to that question. And I feel that puts this whole debate into quite sharp relief. We are grappling with whether we are in fact absorbed within our own arses, which arguably we are. Meanwhile, there is a man who is wearing triple denim somewhere in the Russian countryside who believes it is homosexual to eat anything other than boiled chicken. A man who, I dare say, has not even considered the possibility that one could eat boiled chicken in a homosexual way. And I'm confident that I have. Now, this brings me to the topic of this debate, because, in fact, this is a kind of self-referential circle jerk, isn't it? You are, in fact, if we treat this chamber itself as the collective arse, you have all entered it happily in order to discuss whether you do exist happily up your own arse, for the sake of pretending that you're entertaining the idea that, you have flaws, when in fact what this is an exercise in smugly enjoying all of the problems that you cause for yourself and the world at large. And that brings me neatly to my next point, which is a very important one. I've got it written down here. Something about Julian Assange. That's it. Now, again, that's actually a very funny joke, because recently there was a lot of controversy about Julian Assange coming to speak at the Union, and they had a referendum about it. I don't know, I don't really give a fuck, I live in Russia. But the point was that people were upset on all sides, and something happened. And I'm not saying that if you didn't laugh at that joke, you don't follow current affairs, but I'm saying you should have laughed at the joke. A fellow of Peterhouse once described the Cambridge Union Committee as spotty boys from Fitzwilliam in ill-fitting dinner jackets. But look at them now. And we have to ask ourselves, how is it that they exist happily up their own arse? Well, as Oscar Wilde once said, fashion is a form of ugliness so intolerable that it is still preferable to sitting on the Cambridge Union Committee. And in fact, existing up one's own arse is the only antidote for being on the Cambridge Union Committee. But you might ask me, how, Milo? How is it that these former public school boys are existing happily up their own arse? They are not Ukrainian Olympic contortionists on MDMA. What? You know, these people's whole lives does not conform to the idea of existing in their arse. You know, within an arse it is impossible to have a Waitrose. Or even, dare I say it, a TM Lewin. Some fans of cheap dinner shirts in. I can see you. I don't know why I made that joke. Now, the problem is, right, that actually it's very comfortable for a former public school boy to exist up their own arse, because boarding school, whilst it does give you a love of the finer things in life, it also makes the arse more capacious. It leaves room for items such as a harpsichord, an Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Don't laugh, it's a very big book. I feel like anyone who is laughing is inherently accepting the challenge of fitting Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand into their rectum, and that is not a challenge I would accept. That is a challenge that only the chosen few few may accept. And those chosen few are the members of the Cambridge Union Committee, the people who exist happily up their own arse. For as Robert Frost said, the arse is lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, which on balance I would rather avoid by staying in here. Because in fact, there is no better alternative than simply staying happily in your own arse. Because I've been into the wider world, and it's not nice. I would rather be in my own arse. And now for this next bit, I'm going to have to use my phone. Now, I was warned about using my phone. They said, don't do it. It interferes with the microphones. But because fuck the police, I'm going to use my phone, but on aeroplane mode. Because I'm middle class, and if you're going to fuck the police, you should do it with a carefully engineered loophole. Now, I was recently rejected from a job. Now, you might be thinking, Milo, how can this possibly be? Your profession should clearly be gentleman. And how could one ever be rejected from that? Well, unfortunately, sometimes even I do get rejected from a job. And it was a very kind email. It was pleasant, right? It was from a woman called Francina. Who could argue with that? And Francina said, we're very sorry not to offer you a place on our graduate scheme. I've now double mic'd. That's very interesting. Sort of stereo effect. That's kind of how Francina's voice drifts back to me across my subconscious. Now, Francina said, we're very sorry that we can't offer you a place on our scheme at this company. We're very, very sorry about that. We're very sad to send you this disappointing reply. However, we cannot offer you any feedback due to the sheer volume of applications we receive. Now, that's a careful point to bear in mind, the sheer volume of applications they receive. Because I was very surprised to receive a rejection from this job, not simply because, well, but because, in fact, that was a job I never applied for. Now, I sent Francina a reply, which I will leave you with, and I feel we can all ruminate on. Dear Francina, thank you for your kind email. Whilst naturally disheartened not to be offered a place on the scheme at your company, I wish to assure you that there are no hard feelings. However, I wondered if you might make an exception to your usual rule of not giving feedback to applicants since I'm very curious as to where I may have gone wrong. I had initially assumed that my folly lay in not actually applying for the position. But having received a rejection from you anyway, it seems that this did not affect my ability to be considered for the role. With that in mind, I would like some feedback on the precise ways in which the application I did not send you was not up to your requirements. Was it perhaps that my hypothetical cover letter, whilst admittedly concise, did not contain enough evidence of the interest I didn't have in the role? Or did my CV not feature sufficient details of relevant experience I didn't provide? Unless I'm overqualified, in which case did my CV not contain such a quantity of experience and academic achievements that I seem not to be too senior not to work for you? I would really appreciate a prompt response, as I'm currently in the process of not applying for several other jobs. And it would be useful to know what I should not be doing so as not to get them. And specifically what skills and experience I should not include on any CVs I won't send. Yours sincerely, Milo Edwards. And so I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, not only does this house exist happily up its own arse, but that this is in fact a virtue, because it protects you from people like Francina, who believe that they cannot respond to you with feedback because of the sheer volume of applications they receive, when in fact it appears they've actually received no applications at all. Thank you. I've been Milo Edwards. Good night.
Thank you, Milo. To close the case for side opposition Oxford, we have Jack Chisnell. Again, nothing here. Jack is a third-year English student and always up for a laugh. Jack.
Hello. Hi, guys. Cambridge Union, are we well? Oh, hard to get. Okay, like that. So it's my job to sort of sum things up a little bit. I'm going to, just explain what I'm all about with regard to these guys, how I, differ from them. See, these guys have all been quite slick, sort of well prepared, quite funny. That's not an angle I've gone for, okay? That's not my shtick, okay? I want to get things a little serious. I want to get goddamn serious around here, okay? So if I can just get a word in edgeways, Phil. I'll start getting down to it, okay? I've come here to debate the motion that this house exists up its own arse, okay? Now that statement is, this is not a word I wanted to use. This is not, but these guys have forced me into it. That's Tommy Rot. That is a bag of Tommy Rot, okay? You see, this is a very politically attuned place, This is a radical, progressive place for the people, okay? Sure, look around. It's got a few archaic and pointless traditions, sort of serving the machinations of a wider elitism that allows sort of a certain privileged coterie of sort of privileged people to sort of dominate in the space. But that's a surface, it's a little thing, It's like the ozone layer. It's a little thing we can just strip away. You can just strip away the pomp, okay? For instance, these glasses come right off, okay? Okay. Like any union, the Cambridge Union has been a place where this is a place where some fantastic civil rights protests have stood. And, which civil rights protests have stood in this very spot? Well, more like which civil rights protesters haven't stood in this spot, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Those guys haven't been to the union. That doesn't really help my point, as I was saying. So it's also just a place we don't kick back and relax, whatever. Sit back, smoke a foul one, shoot some hoops, whatever. There are no rules here. Whatever. If I want to sit in the president's chair, I'll just go and do that. I don't want to. I don't want to. Is the point, but I could. And you look around. there's no sort of corporate sort of sponsorship. Well, there is a little one there, but that's one, in a whole room, for God's sake. We're doing well. This is a place where the people are represented, okay? This place is a great energy here tonight. I'm really sensing some good vibes. Hey, mate. Nice and loud so everyone can hear. What's your name?
Gerard.
Oh, like the flower. Let's forget that. Let's forget that name, okay? You're now Earthchild. Hello, Earthchild. You can't be Earthchild as well, but you could sort of be Earth_child, or sort of like Earthchild123, something like that. Cool. To sort of prove why the Union is a political place, I thought I would show you an old protest song that was performed right here in the 70s. I've sort of updated it. I'm going to prove to you guys that we don't live up our own arse. We live up the arse of brotherhood. That didn't come out right, but I mean, we're generally pretty cool. Okay, I'm just going to put my guitar on. Sorry. Bear with me.
Thank you, Jack. That concludes the bizarrest debate I've ever been to. Thank you all for coming. Events this week. Tomorrow we have the Refugee Crisis Forum, and followed by that, the Women's Public Speaking Workshop at 8 o'clock. The forum's at 7 o'clock. The Palestinian ambassador will speak on Monday at 7 o'clock, and the Silicon Valley forum is on Wednesday at 5 p.m. We do not have Martin Luther King coming next week because he's unavailable. However, we do have Reverend Jesse Jackson coming next week to speak in our American Dream motion, and Jerry Springer will speak next Thursday at 5 p.m. Do grab a cocktail from the bar on the way out. As ever, the door by which you leave is significant. If you are voting for the motion, this house happily exists up its own arse, please exit via the yes door on the right. If you're voting against, via the left door on your left. And if you're abstaining, down the middle. Have a very good night.